Glendale City Council and Glendale Housing Authority. May we have the roll call for council?
Council members Agajanian,
Present.
Devine,
Here.
Garpetian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Mayor Sinanian.
Here.
I have a roll call for Glendale Housing Authority.
Authority members Devine,
Here.
Garpetian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Parazian,
Here.
Sinanian,
Here.
Chair Agajanian.
Present.
Can we have the report, please?
The agenda for the September 18, 2018 joint public meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority was posted on Friday, September 14, 2018 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. For you as Director of Community Development regarding request for direction on preparation of an inclusionary zoning ordinance and/or development impact fee for the benefit of providing affordable housing. 1A is the City Council motion directing staff to prepare an inclusionary zoning ordinance in lieu fee resolution. B is the City Council motion directing staff to prepare legislation adopting a commercial development impact fee. And C is the City Council motion directing staff to prepare a draft ordinance revisiting the affordable housing exemption for the Parks and Library impact fee.
Thank you. What's the first item? I'm sorry, who's going to present it?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members, City Council, the Housing Authority, Mike Fortney, Principal Housing Project Manager, will make the presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Fortney, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor Sinani and the City Council members, Housing Authority Chair Agajani, and Housing Authority Board members. Again, I'm Mike Fortney, Housing Project Manager for the city. We do have a PowerPoint presentation, only 11 slides, very direct. We came to the Housing Authority and the City Council last month and talked through some of the policy decisions you would have to make in order for us to develop an ordinance or draft ordinance for your review for an inclusionary zoning ordinance. Let me pause there. There are two items. One is the inclusionary zoning ordinance. The other is the commercial development impact fee, both benefiting affordable housing. So I just wanted to take one item at a time. So we'll start with the inclusionary zoning ordinance. So what we're doing today is based on the input we got from you last month and with the conclusion of Kaiser Marston Associates analysis, we are bringing forth recommendations on inclusionary zoning ordinance for your consideration. So our first recommendation is the IZO be citywide. And I've mentioned it last month. Currently, there is an inclusionary zoning requirement in the San Fernando Road. We would recommend eliminating that and having this citywide IZO, so we have a single inclusionary zoning ordinance. We are recommending that you apply the IZO to ownership as well as rental development. So we're recommending both uses, but we'll get further down the road. I think we can address some of the issues that you had and then some concerns that we had as well. And then thirdly, we're recommending you apply the IZO to developments of 5 units or greater. And there's some discussion down the road with regards to that number as well. But the one thing, it does mirror density bonus. Projects of 4 units or less are exempt from density bonus. So we thought it would make sense to apply it here too. Another recommendation, and this is targeting the affordability or the amount of affordability. We are recommending, and this is based a lot on Kaiser Marston's analysis, 11% of the units in an ownership project be reserved for moderate income, and 15% of the units in a rental project be targeted for lower income. And those incomes based on area median income of LA County. That, again, also mirrors density bonus. Another recommendation, require affordable units to be of similar size and quality as market rate units. But with that, if the developer would like to provide smaller units, we would then just say, in exchange for that, give us more units. So the simple math is, on a rental project, rather than give us 15% of the units that are affordable, you can give us smaller units, but we want 20% of the overall project to be affordable. And with ownership versus 11%, we would ask for 15%.
Excuse me. I just want to understand the square footage wise. Do we have any limitation or anything we are saying about that?
We are not saying anything about square footage here. What we're talking about is on a project that say had 10 one-bedrooms, 10 two-bedrooms, 10 three-bedrooms, what we would ask is the affordable units be roughly that same, so a similar number of 1s, 2s, and 3s. But if, say, you didn't want to provide as many 3-bedrooms, that's fine, but give us more units at the 2 and 1. That's what we're saying. But in terms of square footage, if you have some direction for us, we can draft that into a draft ordinance. But we're silent here on that.
I was thinking to allocate same square footage as would be otherwise, like would be similar house units. Now we say they can provide a smaller unit, but total square footage should not be less than what they have to provide.
And it's absolutely something the City Council and Housing Authority can direct us to do. Give you an example. Typically, our 100% affordable projects, 1-bedrooms are roughly 600, 2-bedrooms roughly 800 square feet, 3-bedrooms are roughly 1,000. If the market rate project had square footages much larger than that, but you only wanted to require the affordable units to be 600, 800,000, 1, 2, 3s. If that's something you wanted, you can direct us to draft that ordinance that way. We have to allow, in an inclusionary, we have to allow for some off-site production of the affordable units. So staff's recommendation to Kaiser Marston's as well is, if you're going to do that, fine, but those units have to be within a half mile of the market rate product that you're building. And what we're also saying is, if you're going to build units to satisfy the inclusionary, those units have to be rental. What we're saying is we don't want you, say you have a requirement, say you're building an ownership project, and you have to give us 6 units in that ownership project. What you want to do instead is give us 6 units off-site. We're saying, okay, as long as it's half a mile away, those units, though, will be rental. Those will not be ownership. What we're trying to avoid is scattered ownership units that are restricted to lower incomes or moderate income. That's the rationale behind that recommendation.
A quick question.
Sure.
Does SB 1818 rules apply to ownership projects as well, the same way it does for rental projects?
Density bonus does apply to ownership as well as around, yes.
How about the density bonus applies to it, so it's up to 35% for rental projects is the same way for ownership projects?
It's a little bit different because the threshold, it's for sale, moderate, well, I guess it's for all 3 now, but the thresholds are slightly different depending on the income level.
Right, but the basics are the
Yes.
same.
You get event bonus and incentives depending on
They
the
have the
level.
same
Yeah.
I don't want to say advantages, the discretionary decisions that it's given, or the variances, you have 2 variances, and then you have 2 other discretions, staff level or what have you. Okay, so the rules are pretty much the same
Yes.
depending on the affordability level.
Right. And just with the inclusionary, we're not giving anything. Under density bonus, you're giving concessions, right, to provide affordable. We're just saying you have to provide it. We're not giving anything in return.
I have a question. On that, let's see, the off-site production of affordable units within a half mile of the market rate project,
Yes.
is that too restrictive? Do you think, was there any thought given to that, or what is the thought behind having it just a half a mile from where their other units are?
That's a great question. I would ask Kathy on that one, since she's worked on other inclusionary zoning ordinances.
The reason for the half mile, and it's not magic, although it has been used in other jurisdictions, is you don't want to end up with all your affordable units concentrated in one part of town. You may, but as a policy, the reason it's chosen that way is to keep the affordable project as close to the market rate project as possible, because the idea is you're trying to integrate market and affordable units. But the half mile is not magic, and it's not required by any law.
I'm sorry. It's so we can have it, further, not to be half a mile, but 1 mile, we can offer that
Sure.
suggestion?
You don't have to put a limit on it at all if you don't want
Within
it.
half a mile will be so hard to find a property to, you go north of Glendale, it will be so hard to find a property to satisfy that requirement.
No, that's fine.
So I think-
No, that's absolutely a policy decision. That's completely within your discretion.
It will be so close and so hard to find a property. Okay.
You would also expand the opportunities for people to use the off-site exception, the broader the distance requirement is, so just keep that in mind as well.
Okay, this next one, I wanted to pause for a moment. Everything that we've talked about on the inclusionary zoning thus far, we've been talking about new development. So I didn't want this slide to confuse anyone. What we're saying is We will allow for acquisition rehab to meet the production of affordable units. So what we're saying is, this is again for off-site. So if you were building a new project and you want to provide some of the affordable units or all of them off-site, we'll also allow you not only to build off-site, but we'll allow you to do an acquisition rehab. But what we're saying is, we would like to see a substantial rehab of the building. We don't want you to just pick up a building and also a building that's been vacant. We're saying for 90 days. What we're trying to avoid is taking other market rate units off the market and moving those folks out, and then supplying the affordable units in those newly vacated units. So that's a policy recommendation that we're making. That, again, is completely up to your discretion.
Quick question for you.
Sure.
Yes, please, go ahead.
But this doesn't apply to somebody who wants to buy an apartment building and rehab the entire units. If you're not having a project, you buy an apartment building, you're rehabbing it, may take 3 months, 90 days, more than 90 days to rehab it. Would you fall under this code?
Right. Everything that we've discussed so far is strictly on new construction.
I understand, but new construction, you have a choice of purchasing a property and rehabbing it, extensive rehab. But if you're not building anything, you just purchase a property and you want to rehab it, you don't fall under this new IZO code.
Right. You're not subject to the IZO. Yes. Matt, thank you. The phase-in option. So the phase-in option, and this is really what we heard from you, is it would affect any project that doesn't already have its building permit secured. And again, that's completely up to your discretion, but it's something we had heard from you on August 14th. And then we get into the in-lieu fees. So what we've done here is, and this is largely, or at least in part, what we heard from you last month, we are, number one, excluding projects of 4 units or less. They won't be subject to the in-lieu fee. They won't be subject to the IZO at all. So units at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 20 units, they're on a sliding scale in terms of the in-lieu fee. So the smaller the project, the less the in-lieu fee. So try to take the burden off those smaller projects. It also does not incentivize those smaller projects to go after density bonus. So what we're saying is 21 units or greater, those projects, they're going to have the highest in-lieu fee. They are the ones that are going to build the units. In fact, our recommendation, it's not there on the staff report or on the PowerPoint, but it's in the staff report, is they would have to make a case, the developer would have to make a case to the city council why they should pay the in-lieu fee versus pay or build the units. So if you're coming in with a project of 21 units or greater, you have to build the units, unless you make a darn good case to city council otherwise. But if you don't, we're trying to discourage you from building them and rather just pay the fee. And we've had the discussion last month as well, the challenge of a developer building affordable ownership units. So what we're trying to do here with the fee is make that much more feasible to pay the fee rather than build the units. Again, you have these scattered ownership units. It's incredibly hard to manage those, when there's an HOA that really doesn't apply to just that one unit. So it saves staff a good deal of time, and just overall, it's we think a good policy. So that's why you see that there. So any project with 21 or more units, the fee for that would be $55 on a rental, $26.30 a square foot on ownership. And again, what we're saying is, if you've got a project 21 units or greater, you have to build the units or make a darn good case to pay the fee. If you're 20 units or less, we'd like to see you just pay the fee. And that is it for the inclusionary zoning. That's staff's recommendation for the program. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Kathy's here, of course, to answer any questions you also have.
Questions? Anyone?
Question. So when you're creating, let's say you have an obligation to create 10 units of affordable rental. Does that have to be new construction? Or can that be, can he just buy a small apartment building and say, that's my affordable over there? I mean, are we looking for like quality units? market versus affordable, or just units, number of units created?
So what, so number one, the IZO, at least that applies to new construction, right?
Right.
It wouldn't apply to
That
somebody.
triggers it. So
Right,
it's a
right.
new project, you owe us affordable units.
yes.
You can build it in your unit, you can pay the fee, or you can create it within a, whatever, half mile, mile, whatever we were talking.
By building it there or.
Does it have to be
or an
built?
rehab. Or.
So my question is, do those units have to be built, or can they be existing units? I buy a small apartment, or whatever, apartment building, and say, here you go, these are my units.
Yes, no, you can do that also.
And do I manage those, or does that,
Yes.
is that your management? Does
No.
that come to the city?
No, the city's not going to be managing.
So
these.
management's on me.
Right. We have to monitor these units, and that's something that I need to mention before the conclusion. We have to monitor these either annually or every 3 years, something. So there's a lot of staff that goes into it, but the actual day-to-day management is on the developer. So whether they choose to go the ACK rehab to produce the affordable units off-site or build them, that doesn't change the fact that they have to manage them.
So what was the answer then? It can
They can't
be,
do that.
you can't purchase a
Yes.
building, like already existing
Yeah.
building, and
But what we're saying is what we would like to see, if you're going to do that, well, maybe one too many, we'd like to see that building that's being purchased to be in need of substantial rehabilitation. And we'd like to see those units having been vacant for 90 days. What we don't want is a pretty nice building that's 100% leased up, and you buy it, boot, however many you need to boot, and then move in low income.
you have to
meet
pay
your
relocation. I mean, under our just cause,
Yeah,
you'd have to pay relocation
Yeah.
for those that you.
that's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. So that's part of the rationale behind that recommendation.
So basically, you want them to buy a dilapidated building that's vacant for 90 days and have an extensive rehab done to it, so it was kind of comparable to the new one that they're building.
Exactly, and they're eliminating blight in the city at the same time. So it's a win-win. And we defined substantial as increasing the value of that property by at least 25% post rehab.
Can you quickly touch on that Parks and Libraries impact fee?
Yes.
Because I found out about this at the budget time this year. So if you're building 100 units and 5 of them are affordable, you could get 25% reduction in your parks impact fee, which is huge, per unit. So if you provide 5 units, you get that reduction for 100 units. Am I correct?
Yeah, for your
Your entire project.
your bill due to the city for your park and library
So
impact fee is reduced.
18,000, 25% of it is $4,500 per unit. That's $450,000 savings for the developers that they built 5 units in a 100-unit project. And if you did 10%, you get 50% reduction. Then if you have 15%, 75% reduction. And this, I don't know how this get in there, but I don't think we can do this anymore, especially for larger projects. I don't mind doing this for smaller projects up to like 30 units or what have you. But the larger projects, they have to pay the entire fee, the complete fee. Because
One
there's
solution
so
would be.
many ways you can benefit from the SB 1818, because you get 35% more units, you get height, you get 4 different variances. On top of that, you get 5 to 10 or 15% reduction in your parks fee. So there's so much you can squeeze on one project. So I think we need to look into this issue as well.
So, Councilman, is that the current state? Is that the way it is now? I didn't know that.
Yes.
That was part of the original adoption of the Parks and Library impact fees from '07. And again, it was before, without an inclusionary ordinance, we were trying to incentivize folks to build build affordable housing. So there was a sort of sliding scale reduction in that Parks and Library impact fee.
It's a good idea, I think.
And that's why it's before you, though.
credit,
If you're
but
going
it
to
seems like
require
a little
people to.
too much that's
Right,
being.
and that's frankly why it's here. If you're going to now require folks to build affordable and they're going to build the affordable, then it doesn't make sense to give them something, discount for something we're telling them they have to do.
Yeah, an easy fix would start the threshold at 20%. So if you have 20% of your units as affordable, then you get that 25% reduction in the fee. Just raise the bar. I mean, that's one solution.
Or the council can decide it doesn't want to have that exemption in there any longer.
Look, do you want me to start, Mr. Mayor?
Please, go
And-
ahead.
To be honest with you, I know this is before us to give directions, and so this could be, the ordinance could be prepared and taken to Planning Commission and come back to us. I'm not ready to give that final direction today because I got this on Friday, and this was a busy weekend. I didn't get a chance, I'm being brutally honest, to review everything and come up with everything that I wanted to implement in this ordinance. So I will tell you what my directions are today, or my idea is today, and if my colleagues want to move forward that way, it's fine. If not, I think we need to look at this one more time before it goes to be a full-blown ordinance that goes to the Planning Commission. Having said that, I already mentioned the parks fees. I am okay with the page 6 where it says, the in lieu fees for office buildings. That's what it is for. These are the fees that we have for parks fees, and they want to do something similar for in lieu fee for affordable housing, for small amount for office buildings, general commercial, and industrial, like $3.25. Auto dealerships and hotels are exempt. I'm okay with those. If I can go back to my notes. And most importantly, I think, personally, I think all of our goals, is to have ownership housing in Glendale. And there are so many local property owners that kept their properties for last 15, 20 years, 30 years, and it was downzoned at one point, so they could have built 20 units before. Now they can only build 12 units. These are just numbers, as examples. And if we add another 15% affordable component to it, I think it's just not the right thing to do. So my goal is to promote more affordable, more ownership housing, entry-level ownership housing, so projects that are between 25, 30 units, up to 30 units to be exempt from ownership projects, to be exempt from this IZO. And I think the bigger burden should be on the larger projects overall, because again, a lot of people kept their properties for a long time and they were downzoned. So next door has 20 units, but they can build only around 14 units or 12 units. So my idea would be to, 25 or 30 units. This not to apply for ownership housing up to 30 units.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Najarian?
Well, I'm not opposed, well, the first, I guess, suggestion was to come back in a couple weeks with another
Yeah.
discussion of this.
So I can wrap my brain around it.
I'm not opposed to that. In fact, maybe I would prefer that. I mean, there's a couple of new thoughts that you've put out that I haven't really thought about. But generally, obviously, I do support it. I like the citywide coverage. I mean, I'm pretty much in line with staff's recommendations on this, but I'm not opposed to
Bringing this back.
coming back. I don't know if there's a huge time issue with this, but I think it's something serious enough that we should do it right. Make sure that we have we done any outreach, by the way? I mean, are there stakeholders that we've contacted or floated this idea by yet, or not at this point?
The only outreach that I know of is to the Realtors Association. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have made it aware to that group that this discussion has been ongoing, talked to them a little bit about the process, how eventually we'll take whatever recommendations, and that would then go to Planning Commission and back to City Council. So we haven't really gotten any input at this stage in the game from any of the stakeholders.
How about the idea of exempting
Ownership.
say 25 to 30 units ownership?
I need to think about that. I understand the intention is to help generate more ownership, and I'm in favor of that. But I need to think about how that would work.
So that the idea of bringing this back in a couple of weeks actually helps you with that idea?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Mr.
I would
Agajanian?
like to join my colleagues to postpone this issue until further review of the matter, because this is kind of a very serious issue, and we have to be correct, because this is gonna be a law or ordinance that will stay for a long time. So we better be right on this.
Thank you, sir. And you just don't want to talk about any of the specifics of the
No,
staff's
because
report?
this
Okay,
needs
very well.
more study. I mean,
Sure.
this is
Sure.
kind of a complicated issue. I mean, it's not.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilmember Devine?
I had a question about, if I can find it, I just saw it, and I probably won't be able to find it. On the in lieu fee,
Yes.
you're recommending $26.30 for in lieu fee. And you mentioned on, I guess, page 17, that this is what is supportable by the developers. Is $39 too much? I mean, we kind of missed the boat on development impact fees, or I don't know, in a building somewhere along the way that we could have gotten more. I don't want to lose out on this. I think Councilmember Agajanian said we want to get it right. When you say it's supportable, as opposed to, let's say, just going up to $39, would that make a big difference in?
Yeah, I'm going to let
In their
Kathy
face,
answer
Kathy?
it. I just wanted to say, and kind of to address some of the concerns we'd heard in the last meeting was, we aren't trying to discourage ownership development. So that's part of the reason why our recommendation on the in lieu fee for ownership versus rental is virtually in half. But to answer that question specifically, I think Kathy would be more able to answer.
So what we were trying to do with the ownership in lieu fee, and when you look at the schedule, is the Kaiser Marston policy recommendation on ownership was to try to encourage payment of the in lieu fee rather than production of affordable units, because of the problems that Mike mentioned in terms of management and administration and people being mad when they have to resell at affordable. So we set the fee purposefully at a lower amount to encourage the payment. So you could charge more, legitimately, but to try and meet that objective.
Right, if we want to encourage. Okay.
Mr. Agajanian, do you mind, Ms. Devine?
No, of course.
Mr. Agajanian, please.
See, in lieu fee, the problem with it is we collect some money, but that money doesn't help us, because the affordable housing which we provide, it takes us 3-4 years down the road. And the money we collected 3 years later, it doesn't amount to much.
No, and that's, again, and almost everything that's been discussed today is a policy decision rather than a legal decision or something you have to do. It's my professional opinion that I would rather for ownership units take the money and then use it to do rental, because I think rental's more stable. You have single owners, single management, people move in, people move out. That being said, that's my professional opinion. You, for a variety of different reasons, could have a completely different decision, and it'd be fine.
No, I agree with you that if it's a ownership, you take the money and then create a rental unit, I agree with that idea which she is offering now.
And so the other side is we're not encouraging the fee to be paid on the rental, except on small projects, and then anything above the 20 units, we're saying, no, you'd have to come back to council, as Mike said, with a very good reason.
Thank you.
And that's why we set it high for rental.
Okay,
Back
so,
to Mike.
thank you very much. Thank you for the report, by the way, it was quite good. I'm in agreement with postponing to a later date, so we can get into the real minutia of this, because I think, there's a lot to digest here and a lot to new ideas, so I'm not opposed to that. I agree with the inclusionary, and I agree with the DIF, but let's look at the other aspects of this possible ordinance in the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
Mr. Golano, do you need a date certain for us, or you
October
want to?
2nd, please bring it back on October 2nd.
October 2nd,
now.
staff, can you make the changes by October 2nd?
It's full already?
It's going to be a long, long night.
How about the
day.
10th?
The 9th.
9th?
Start,
I'm sorry, the
having
9th,
full
you're
council
right.
members, full council after
Is,
October 2nd.
yeah, one of our members is missing. Well, if that's the case, then bring it back a little later.
October
No,
30th.
the next full meeting is on the 30th.
October 30th.
Yeah. Is that okay?
That's fine, but I mean, I didn't want to delay
Yeah.
that long, but it's okay. We need to have a full council anyway, so
Yes.
that's fine.
And
just,
so,
yeah,
do you want?
just one last item. I did a quick calculation. If you want to build 20 units, 1,500 square feet, units average, with $26 in lieu fee per square foot, you are up to almost $800,000. And with $39, you're up to 1.17 million. 1 million.
So it's a
It's
large
a big hefty
difference,
amount, and these are not financeable. The fees that you pay, nobody will finance it. I know you can put it in your construction, this, that, the other, but this is money out of pocket from people who are trying to build a smaller projects. They don't have Wall Street money, So that's where I'm a little bit hesitant on bigger dollar amount, but I think it will give us enough time to write down our ideas and come back, and next time hopefully we get a clear direction.
I appreciate that. I just want to admit, I did not go beyond the inclusionary zoning discussion to get into the commercial development impact fee discussion. If you wish to just put that off again to October 30th with the other inclusionary, I don't need to
Let's
go
do
through
that.
that again.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll put that off as well. Do you have a question? Mr.
No, I've
Mazza?
got a date for you.
Okay.
Given council calendars, what we already have, consultant's not available on the 30th.
Okay.
Is November 13th too far out?
Well, this is important enough where I think we want this issue to be well briefed and so that we can be well informed, so that we can have all the options available, considering the comments that have been made. So I would say it's fine, but please submit the report to us as soon as possible. Don't hesitate to submit it to us 2 weeks prior.
And with that, we've had a couple of reports. Would you like some of the pros and cons of these, some alternatives? Both of those?
I think all the
based on
options
what
should
we've
be on the
heard.
table, considering,
Yeah, I'd like to just say
The
as much
thoughts that have been-
information as you
Yeah.
can give us on what's been cited here today and other possibilities.
And also,
yes, sir.
to brief us way before, since we have enough time, so why you don't brief us way before, not 2 weeks earlier?
Right.
Just
We can definitely do that.
To the extent the staff is ready, and we understand that the agenda may be already full before then, but to the extent staff is ready, a report is ready, feel free to brief us as soon as possible.
That's what I'm just going to say. With that date, we should have time to prepare a report, get it out to you, schedule briefings, and then it may be a couple weeks and
Right.
get back to you.
Okay. And, I guess the moral lesson in all this is that we should have done this before we embarked on the major development in downtown. I think we missed the moment, but better late than never.
Council didn't even want to put in parks and library, in fact.
And that may have been at the time, this was a
Back
little,
then.
a little before I got elected, but
No, I'm
this.
not putting on
it
you
may
guys.
have- Yeah,
That bad council,
right.
it's gone.
No, and I'm not putting God on any council either. I'm saying, I'm actually trying to sort of rationalize it. Maybe they thought that putting any of these will be an impediment on the road of accomplishing this redevelopment of downtown. I think the results that we observed, or, in that time period showed that I think there was way more willingness to come and invest in Glendale than they may have realized at the time. But, that's history, ancient history at this point.
I just have one comment. The good news is you couldn't do rental inclusionary until last September.
Oh,
So you didn't miss any boats.
then there's that.
Yeah,
Okay.
just thought I'd mention that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, no, the law.
Because of the Palmer decision.
Okay, all right, well, that's that then. Thank you. So scheduled date is November 13th, you said? Okay, very well. What's next on the agenda?
Nothing on this one?
Okay. Okay, do we have a
Move to
motion for
adjourn.
council?
For council?
Same thing, to adjourn?
Move to adjourn for housing?
Second. Thank you. So we are
Okay.
adjourned.
And we adjourned for both, for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're back on for the September 18th, 2018 special meeting of Glendale City Council. May we have the roll call, please?
Councilmembers Agajanian.
Present.
Devine.
Here.